All right, today we're diving into a country that's pretty much a synonym for coffee. We are going on a journey through Brazil. And you'll see it's not just one big coffee producer. It's like a whole world of coffee, all packed into one nation.
I mean, have you ever really thought about it? That cup you're holding right now isn't just some generic brown bean. Nope, it has a story, a specific place it calls home. And you know what? There's a pretty good chance its story begins in Brazil.
Because, and get this, a full 1/3 of all the coffee drank in the entire world comes from this one South American giant. That number is it's almost hard to wrap your head around, but that's the reality of Brazil's place in the coffee world.
Okay, so let's get into it. To really get Brazilian coffee, you first have to understand its classic foundational flavor. You know, the taste that really put it on the map.
This right here, this is the quintessential Brazilian experience in a nutshell. It's so approachable, so comforting. That smooth, sweet, nutty profile is exactly why Brazilian beans are the foundation for so many espresso blends all over the globe. It's kind of like the reliable, delicious backbone of the entire coffee world. But of course, it's not just one note. Brazil's massive production is actually split between two very different kinds of coffee beans, and they each play a totally different role.
So, on one hand, you've got Arabica. That makes up about 70% of the whole harvest. This is where all those refined, complex, and aromatic notes come from. But then you have Robusta, or as they call it locally, Canilon. This one's got a much stronger, earthier punch, and, this is key, about twice the caffeine. It's the powerhouse bean that goes into a lot of instant coffee and gives espresso that extra kick.
So now that we know the beans, let's see where they actually grow. We're about to go on a quick tour of Brazil's most important coffee states, because believe me, where it's grown completely changes what ends up in your cup.
First stop, Minas Gerais. And you know, calling it a powerhouse is honestly an understatement. This isn't just some region, it is the absolute heartland of Brazilian coffee.
Just think about that for a second. A single state produces almost half of the entire country's coffee. And even within this one state, you have places like Sul de Minas, famous for brighter citrusy notes, and Cerrado Mineiro, which is so special it became Brazil's first protected coffee origin. Kind of like how champagne can only come from Champagne, France. It just goes to show you, even inside this giant, there's so much diversity.
All right, let's move on to our next stop, São Paulo. If Minas Gerais is the powerhouse of today, then São Paulo is the historic engine that basically built Brazil's whole coffee empire.
This is where that huge 19th century coffee boom really took off. You've got the famous Mogiana region here, producing those classic medium-bodied, nutty, chocolatey coffees. And the state is home to the Port of Santos, which even today is the biggest coffee exporting port on the entire planet. History is definitely still alive and kicking here.
Now for something totally different. Let's head over to Espírito Santo. This is a state that has really leaned into the other side of Brazilian coffee, Robusta.
So, as Brazil's second biggest coffee state, a whopping 80% of what they grow is that potent Canilon, or Robusta. But here's the twist. The mountainous parts of the state are also growing some absolutely incredible specialty Arabica coffees. We're talking complex, fruity flavors that completely defy the state's reputation. It's a place of really fascinating contrasts. Our final stop is Bahia, the newcomer on the block. This region really represents the high-tech, innovative future of coffee in Brazil. So while other regions have literally centuries of history, Bahia's story only really gets going in the 1970s. Here it is all about technology, high-tech farming and irrigation. And that creates these stunningly different flavor profiles. Think bright, floral, even tropical fruit notes. And they're already winning major international awards, which just proves that all that innovation is seriously paying off. So we've seen the where, but what about the how? How do these beans get their final flavor? Well, what happens after the coffee is picked, the processing, is just as important as the region it grew in.
The difference between these two methods is, well, it's everything. The traditional natural process means they dry the entire coffee cherry in the sun, letting all those fruit sugars soak right into the bean. That's what creates that classic sweet, full-body, chocolatey cup. But the more modern pulped natural process, which Brazil actually pioneered, removes the skin but leaves the sticky, fruity stuff on the bean while it dries. This creates this beautiful balance. It's sweeter than a washed coffee, but brighter than a natural. It really is the secret sauce behind many of Brazil's best specialty coffees.
Okay, we've toured the country, we've seen the process. Let's bring this all back home and talk about how you can actually enjoy all of this in your own kitchen. First off, what are Brazilians themselves drinking every day? Well, the market is pretty much dominated by a few big brands. Three Corações, which means three hearts, is the clear leader. It's the everyday go-to for its smooth flavor. Café Pilon and Melita are also household names, known for being super consistent and having those bold traditional roasts.
So, how do you pick out a great bag for yourself when you're shopping? It's easy, just 3 simple steps. First, look for a region on the label. A name like Mogiana tells you so much more than just Brazil. Second, always check the roast date. Fresher is better, no question. And third, try to buy whole beans if you can. The flavor you save by grinding right before you brew, it's a total game changer.
And what about brewing it? You know, a French press is a fantastic choice. That full immersion method really just pulls out that signature full body and deep sweetness that makes Brazilian coffee so comforting and delicious. It's a perfect match.
So, from the powerhouse of Minas Gerais all the way to the modern frontier of Bahia, we've seen that Brazil isn't just one single flavor. It's an entire world of coffee. Every single cup really does tell a story of where it came from. So the only question left is, what story are you going to brew tomorrow?